Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Electoral Commission of South Africa as we come and brief South Africans on the fruits of final voter registration weekend. My name is Kate Papela, the national spokesperson of the IEC. It's indeed an incredible afternoon. After a very busy weekend, thank you to the media for the great work that we're doing on the ground, and to South Africans that came out in numbers. This afternoon, I'm joined by the Chief Electoral Officer, Ntate Saima Mabolo, as well as DCO Shibori, Electoral Matters, as well as DCO Shali, Outreach. I'm also joined by our CFO, Medoni, Mbata, as well as Ntate Mahlangu, DCO for political party. And I'm hoping that this afternoon is exactly what is intended to be. But as the Electoral Commission was superbly happy to engage with South Africans. We're also joined by the senior managers of the IEC around us here this afternoon, and also the officials of the IEC joining us online as well. We've got South Africans on TikTok as well as on YouTube following this particular briefing. It's indeed a fruitful afternoon. Ntate Mamabolo, as we brief South Africans on their interactions with the IEC this weekend on various platforms, either on our contact center, either on all the other platforms that we have as the Electoral Commission, on our website, on our voter portal. We've seen a lot of South Africans engaging us, and we know that it was all worth it, and massive campaigns that we hosted. So as the IEC, allow us this morning to brief you on the fruits of this weekend. Ntate Mamabolo, as you brief the nation.
Good afternoon. Over the past registration weekend on 1st and 2nd August, 1.7 million citizens interacted with the Electoral Commission by either visiting one of the 23,699 stations or using the online voter registration portal. Of the 1.7 million transactions recorded, 291,000 or 16% were persons registering for the first time. Additionally, 1.5 million or 84% were persons already registered who inspected and updated their registration details. This is in line with the message that a voter must register and vote in a voting district within a ward in which they live. This is important because in local government elections, there is no provision to vote outside of the voting station of registration. In terms of provincial outcomes, KwaZulu-Natal recorded the highest registration transactions at 427,000. It was followed in the second place by Gauteng at 314,000 transactions. In third comes the Eastern Cape with 313,000 transactions. Just to give you a complete provincial picture, 427,000 KZN, Gauteng 314,000, Eastern Cape 313,000, Limpopo 209,000, Western Cape 134,000, Mpumalanga 133,000, Northwest 116,000, the Free State 97,000, and the Northern Cape 47,000. Registration-based registration-based applications continue to be the leading mode of registrations, with 1.5 million of the total 1.7 million registration activity. Provincially, KwaZulu-Natal comprises the largest number at 386 registration-based activity, followed by the Eastern Cape at 295,000 and Gauteng at 228,000. The online portal contributed to 38,000 transactions over the 2 days. The highest usage of the online voter registration platform was recorded in Gauteng at 86,000, followed by KwaZulu-Natal 41,000, and the Western Cape 33,000. This is unsurprising because these are the provinces with the highest concentration of urban populations. In terms of the youth profile of the registration activity, of the total 1.7 million transactions recorded, young people in the age cohort 16 to 29 account for 485,000 or 26%. Even more encouraging is that 46% of the new registrations are by voters under the age of 29. Again, KwaZulu-Natal leads with young persons registrations at 137,000, followed by the Eastern Cape at 79,000 and Gauteng at 78,000. The total registration activity for the final registration weekend, female voters account for 1 million, representing 56% of the total activity, while male voters account for 788,000 or 44% of total registration activity. This is consistent with the well-established trend of there being more females than males on the voters' roll. Of the 291,000 new registrations, 50% were female. Now we deal with the cumulative impact of the 2 registration weekends. The combined impact of the 2 registration drives resulted in close to 4.7 million interactions with voters. Sorry, may I repeat this, please? The combined impact of the 2 registration weekend drive resulted in close to 4.7 million interactions with voters, compared to 1.7 million transactions recorded during a comparable election in 2021. However, we note that at that time, only 1 registration weekend was conducted due to the truncated timelines owing to COVID. Collectively, the 2 registration weekends held in June and August contributed 754,000 new voters, adding to the continued growth of the voters' roll ahead of the 2026 local government elections. Properly understood, 2.1 million new voters have been added to the voters' roll since the last general elections in 2024. This is despite the fact that we regrettably lost 884,000 voters owing mainly to mortality, because on average per month we lose 34,000 people. The Commission advises eligible voters who are unable to visit a registration station during this weekend to make use of the online voter registration portal before proclamation on Friday, 7th August 2026. To maximize the remaining registration period, the Commission is expanding the online registration modality to make it even more accessible and convenient. The Commission announces the introduction of voter registration on the WhatsApp platform. This modality provides intuitive, convenient, and mobile-friendly way to register or update details given its pervasive use. The platform uses secure identity verification measures, including OTP authentication, ID document upload, address verification, and voting station confirmation to protect the integrity of the voter's roll. While WhatsApp registration forms part of a broader voter registration offering, accurate address validation remains critical to a successful registration process. To support this, some voters may be redirected to the interactive map on the online voter registration platform to locate and confirm the rooftop location of their residences. By leveraging a platform used daily by millions of South Africans, the Commission is expanding access to voter registration, improving convenience, and ensuring that more eligible voters can register or update their details before the close of the registration period at midnight on the 7th of August, this Friday. With the successful conclusion of the 2 registration weekends, the Commission now turns its full attention to preparations for Election Day. The next phase of the electoral program will focus on the formal election timetable, which will commence once the election date is proclaimed. This will usher in key electoral milestones, dates, and timeframes for critical processes, including candidate nomination, certification of the voter's roll, and other activities leading up to Election Day on the 4th of November. The Commission is encouraged by the uptake of the online candidate nomination system by potential independent candidates as well as political parties. Currently, there's over 93 independents and 87 parties who are active on the online candidate nomination system. We continue to encourage all contestants to use the system to capture candidates and details of their supporters where applicable. The Commission reiterates that all eligible voters should not wait until the last minute to register or update their details. Experience has shown that a surge in registration activity often occurs closer to key deadlines, creating avoidable pressures on the registration channels. We remind the nation to use the SMS 32810 line to check their registration details. Our contact center on 0800 11 8000 remains available for assistance to voters. Our WhatsApp line 0600 088 000 is also now available and expanded to help the voters. The Commission wishes to extend its sincere appreciation to all the voters, the 48,000 registration staff, the leaders of political parties, community organizations, stakeholders, the security services, who have contributed to the successful conduct of the registration weekend. Every registration strengthens South Africa's electoral democracy and ensures that citizens have a voice in shaping the future of local government. The Commission also thanks the Minister responsible for cooperative governance and traditional affairs for the public announcement of his intention to proclaim the election day on this Friday, the 7th of August. On this day, 7th August 2026, the Commission will brief the media on the activities that will underpin the election timetable, as well as outlining key electoral activities and statutory deadlines and milestones leading up to the 4th of November. On that day as well, Friday the 7th of August, the electoral code of conduct will also take effect. The purpose of the electoral code of conduct is to create an environment in which a free and fair election can take place. So we wish to once again take this opportunity to call on all citizens, party leaders, candidates, prospective and otherwise, to respect both the letter and the spirit of the Code of Conduct. We need that because to run a free and fair elections requires conditions that are cultivated by all of us for its success and for it to meet the constitutional muster. With that, I thank you.
Thank you so much, CEO. 2.1 million new voters have been added to the voters' roll. We're going into these elections certainly strong and stronger. I'm going to open the floor to questions. I've got journalists in this particular room. I also have got journalists following us online. So I'm going to open the floor for questions. You introduce yourself, the media house you represent, and then pose that question. We can now proceed with questions from this particular room. Let's proceed.
My apologies, I might have missed this. Since the inception, how many voters showed interest in participating in the upcoming local government elections? The total number of all of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joseph Amanda Goke from ENCA. It appears to me, unless my mathematics is dribbling me, that the number is relatively lower for the second and final voter registration weekend compared to the first one in June. Is there anything you've picked up in terms of what may have led to what I can term the lack of appetite for this past weekend? Thank you.
Thank you. Any more hands that are missing? I've got one from here, and then there'll be the second one following. Let's proceed from this corner.
Alfara Mushwara here from Eyewitness News. A basic one, where do we currently sit the voters' roll? How many people are currently eligible to vote on the 4th of November? Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Hawelo Mawoleo from UFM. Can you kindly just touch on any incidents, if there were any, of refusal or boycotting of a registration? I just had one on the radio on my way here. I'm sure you'll have better details about it. And there was an incident in Mpumalanga where people were accused of trying to register in an area where they clearly did not reside. A political party alleging that they were actually passed there. And back to the boycotting, what are the implications for communities and for the election process itself of such a boycott if we refuse to register and follow up by not voting on the day? Because it seems people believe that a councillor can govern them if they did not participate in their election. Just clarify the legality of that one. And finally, we saw the 4 biggest political parties being very active alongside the Commission, of course, with voter registration programs. And the so-called smaller ones, most of them were nowhere in action, but some of them are registered to vote. Ideally, how would you want political parties to support this kind of initiative? And I say that notwithstanding that running a voter registration process would cost them, campaign would cost them money, obviously, as does any other electioneering campaign. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Looks like I've covered. Okay, let me take the last one before we do the second and final round. Let's proceed, please.
Thank you. It's Kabelo Mkhalabon from Zanin Voice and Polokwane Weekly. I just want to just get to know if there were any challenges that the Commission has encountered this previous weekend, because I know we had a problem in Giyani where there was vandalism of electric cables, of which we understand it affected the network, so there couldn't really be registration. So I just want to know if were you able to resolve that issue, and when was it resolved? Thank you so much.
Let me leave that on that note, Ntate Mamabolo and the executives of the IEC. As we respond to questions, we'll do the second round. Thank you, Ntate Shiburi.
Good afternoon. Let's start, let's invert the order. First, the electricity vandalism in Zanini and its impact on our operations. A short answer is there was no interruption. In preparing the VMD, we anticipate for those eventualities. Areas where there's no electricity, the VMD is charged overnight. It goes to a station fully charged with a peripheral external additional battery. That's one. Two, it is also equipped to function where, as a result of lack of electricity, there's no connection to the internet because the towers are down. So it has all the maps, it holds all the details. We store the information locally on the VMD, and only when it reaches an area where there's network will it transmit the information. So there has not been any negative impact on the operations over the registration weekend, both in Giyani and in Zanini, as a result of vandalism to electricity infrastructure. How do we want the parties, political parties, to support campaigns and voter registrations? Ultimately, our system of representation is a multi-party system of representation, and therefore political parties are the essential platforms for representation. On voting day, the Electoral Commission will not appear on the ballot paper. So it is up to contestants themselves to animate voters, to share with them their vision for their communities, so that those voters responding to positive messages that are voter-centric can make an informed choice based on the competing political persuasions by the various political parties. So there's a big role for political parties, both to encourage their supporters to register, but more importantly, once registered, to give them policy options that resonate with their circumstances, so that people feel that there is a choice on the menu called the ballot paper. Indeed, we are aware of the incident in Mpumalanga, where it is reported that about 30 persons were stopped from registering, principally because they presented at a voting station at which they were not ordinarily resident. While it is theoretically possible to present anywhere in the country for purposes of registration, if you provide your proper address, we have the intelligence to register you at the point where you present, but default your registration to a voting district in a ward linked to that address or to the place you described to the registration officer. So merely presenting at a voting station at a place where you are not ordinarily resident is in and of itself not irregular. What is irregular is to misrepresent your place of ordinary residence, or where you provide an address, you provide an address that is fictitious, doesn't exist, or it's not linked to your place of ordinary residence, in order to be registered in a ward where you would ordinarily otherwise not be registered. People who are unhappy for one reason or another with either service delivery or decisions of the MDB, water provision, and electricity provision. An election offers an opportunity to renew mandate. It is an opportunity to influence the selection of decision making in the local sphere, and therefore we do not think that there is much to be served by people opting out of the democratic participation when they have an opportunity to influence the governance in their local areas. The total voters roll stands at just over 29 million voters. And it is so, and I think we need to re-emphasize the following. Since the last election in 2024, and because voter registration is continuous, we do not only register voters when there's an election. Voter registration is continuous. So since 2024 to about yesterday, we registered 2.1 new voters. However, that doesn't necessarily add 2.1 million people to the voters roll, because it is a live document. In the same period, we have lost over 800,000 people from the roll, mainly owing to mortality. So as you increase, you must first start by reversing the net losses that you suffer in between elections. And for that reason, it is true that the yield in the second registration was lower than the yield in the first registration, principally because we think the majority of people we intended to make, to avail themselves of the opportunity to register had already done so either online continuously or during the first registration weekend when it was announced. The first question from the SABC, if you could repeat it, I didn't quite understand. As I understood, you said, since the inception, how many voters have shown an interest to vote?
No, I meant the voter registration weekend.
Yes. Okay, there's 29 million people on the voters roll, and what the stats that the CEO shared with us reveal, they confirm some of the findings in our HSRC survey, that in areas like KZN, there is heightened intention by voters to participate, and the registration figures, transactions, bear that intention out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ntate Sheburi. I've got questions from our online platform. Anele, if you can take those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I have 3 questions from a journalist online, from Karan Singh, who is from The National. The first question is, what segments of the population remains unregistered? The second question is, what percentage of the youth population remains unregistered? The third question is, given that this is Women's Month, how many women are registered to vote, and has this number increased or decreased since the last local government elections? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anele. Some of those questions have already been covered in the statement from the CEO. Let me check if there are still other questions from the floor before we wrap up. I see a hand up.
Thank you so much. If I'm not mistaken, before the weekend, we were sitting with more than 10 million eligible voters who haven't been registered. Can that be confirmed that for now, following this, an indication as to how many still need to register? Thank you.
Any hand that I'm missing before we respond? There's a hand from the floor. Let's borrow him a mic from the other side. Thank you.
My name is Thabo Makwakwa from Sputnik Africa. I have two questions. So following the final voter registration, how does the IEC assess at least the public engagement? And lastly, with women continuing to lead the voter registration in terms of numbers, how does the IEC also, assess this? How does it engage to this? Are there any efforts to at least, try to change the pattern and maybe do some more voter education so that our men can also participate? Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, DCO Aktari, for joining this press briefing as well. We've got those questions, and Tate Mamabolo, Tate Chebore. Any question that I've missed? I think we're good to go. Thank you.
Okay. Indeed, we confirm that the population estimates in the country estimate age-eligible citizens upward of 39 million. We have 29 million people on the roll, so that is the gap that remains unregistered. Are those people unregistered because of failure by the Commission to run programs? I don't think it is an adequate response. It is clear from all research that there is an emerging and entrenching electoral divide. What do we mean by that? There are people who have formed a view that until certain things happen, they will not participate in an election. So whatever drives you do will not reverse and get those people into the fold. But we should not lose hope. We should still persist to involve those countrymen and countrywomen into participating in electoral democracy. The female remain the majority of voters on the roll. Not only that, they also remain the majority of people who turn out in elections. The Commission, however, does not have the statutory authority to impose on political parties who they nominate as candidates and how they arrange their party list. Of the 291,000 new registration, and that's a nuance there of interest, we have, in a very long time, an equal split of 50-50 between males and females. So the 290,000 new registrations that we recorded over the second registration weekend, we have a 50-50 split between male and female. However, globally, on the voters' roll, we have a 9% differential in favor of female voters on the roll. 55% female and 44-point-something% being male on the voters' roll. I think I've dealt with it.
Thank you so much. There we have it for this afternoon. As we continue for the rest of the week, we've got a very busy week ahead of online voter registration as we count down towards the publishing of the election date in the Government Gazette on Friday the 7th. In that Friday, this coming Friday, 12 midnight, the voters' roll closes, and that will be Amen. There won't be anyone that's coming in or that's going out. So on that note, thank you so much. Let's keep on pushing until the voters' roll closes. And thank you so much to all South Africans for all the efforts the past voter registration weekends. On that note, I don't see any hand. I'm not closing anyone out. When I close, I see hands. Can I take the last 2-3 hands, CO, before I wrap up? Please borrow them the mic so that we close and, yeah. I see a hand there. Annele, is that you? Yes.
Thank you. This question is coming from TikTok, and it's from Temba Zweni, who asks, Why is it so expensive to register independent candidates compared to political party candidates?
So expensive, just confirm the question, Anele. Say it again.
Why is it so expensive to register independent candidates compared to political party candidates?
Okay. I think there was only Anele left online. After that, we should be almost done. DC Oshiburi, as we take that question, the highway is calling. Thank you.
Two things. An independent candidate doesn't need to register. However, on the other hand, a party needs to meet certain requirements before it can exist in law. All that an independent must do is to meet the qualification criteria to stand as a candidate and to pay an election deposit of 1,800 rands for a ward that they intend to contest. If they win that election, they get that deposit refunded. So it is not a money-making scheme. If they do not win that ward, they forfeit the deposit. The deposit is not forfeited to the Electoral Commission, it's forfeited to the National Treasury. So for independents, it is 1,800. The quantum of deposits were advertised. Commission took representation, considered those representation before it determined the amount of those deposits.
Okay. On that note, Bahaichu, ladies and gentlemen, this is how it ends. Let's count down towards Friday. Have a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.